all of the financial decisions we make are 90% of them are not practical or rational. They're based on emotion. They're based on how we're feeling at the time. They're based on our values. They're based on how much willpower we have. They're based on our identities. They're based on how we want to see ourselves. And I think the biggest personal finance scam is not telling people that and telling people that we can make decisions as if we're robots.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Break the Norm podcast, where we break free from the so-called normal and build something real, bold, and unapologetically you. I'm Ruth Solorzano, actor, producer, and living proof that you can come back from most things.
And I'm Lily Shaw, actor, mentor, creator of Shine Anyway course, and someone who's never believed in playing small. It's time to break the norm.
Together. Hey, Lily. What's up?
I'm having podcast issues today.
We're having all the issues today. I have a sty in my eye. It's just all the fun.
All the technical glitches are happening.
Technical glitches. Yeah.
This has been
Interesting day. You know?
It's the life of an entrepreneur.
That's right. The life of an entrepreneur. You know why today has kind of been weird? It's probably because we're talking about money today. And I feel like that always makes things weird. I'm serious, though. I mean, like, do you ever talk to anyone about money? Like, who do you talk to about money?
Mostly myself.
Mostly yourself. Okay.
Well, it's so interesting because money is like so personal and yet so universal. We all have the same relationship and same worries and same, whatever about money. We all want more of it. And yet we do not like talking about it, right? So we're going to break the norm today and actually talk about money.
Yeah, but we're really not the authority on money, and we're not going to pretend to be. Today we have a guest on the show. We have Pamela Capalad. She is a CFP, a certified financial planner, and a certified financial coach. She works for to be transparent, I actually work for her. I know. I'm her. Trust me, I don't deal with any of her money stuff. I just do all her back end work. But
so you say.
Yeah, right. But she's been really great, and I've learned so much from her, and I thought that she'd be a really good guest on the show today to talk about our relationship with money.
Yeah, I agreed, because I feel like one of the things that we're striving for on our podcast is to talk about the difficult things, right? And there is no more difficult conversation that you can have than talking about money, how you feel about it, how you approach it. And then there's the big thing of how do you save it or invest it? And I think Pamela is a huge influence, a huge expert. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, she's an expert. Yes.
Right. To bring this conversation into our universe, because this is certainly not the first time we're going to have this conversation. Right. But she's going to do it in a way that is welcoming and warm and inviting versus stark and in your face and bring me your numbers. And I think that is the necessary first step, right?
Mm-hmm.
How you look at money without freaking out, without making it feel like it's a judgment on you, and see it as perhaps, I don't know. I don't know what the new relationship can be. I think that's what Pamela's going to tell us.
That's what we're going to talk about. Yeah. What can our relationship turn into?
What can it be instead of fear and shame, which I love. I love her website title. It's GetShameless.com.
Yes,
I mean, yes.
Yeah.
Let's remove the shame out of money and use it the way that we want to use it.
Yeah. So let's get shameless about money.
So when did your personal relationship with money change? Do you have that moment in your life?
When did my personal relationship with money change?
Yeah, or when did you go from getting scared of it to meeting it in the eye?
Oh, I mean, I'm still meeting money in the eye, to be quite honest. I mean, moving across the country multiple times will do some things to your bank account, But I think that, as I got older, and especially growing up with no money, I've always had to kind of figure it out and just find the money and just work and just just find it. And I think as I've gotten older and like really learned like, oh, it's good to save. And I mean, to be honest, working for Pam, working with people who actually like teach about money has been so beneficial for me because unfortunately in this country, there is no financial literacy. So I was in the boat with everyone else just being like, all right, I'm just living paycheck to paycheck and I'm trying to figure it out and I have no safety net. And so I remember working with kind of like her and just like realizing one of the things that she talks about is having kind of like a floor in your account. And like, I'm not like when you're at that floor, you keep it there.
Yeah.
Right. And so like not always like living off empty, like you always have some fuel in the tank. And so that for me was like a big thing where I was like, oh, okay, 0 isn't the floor.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, it's been a working relationship. And I have gotten so much better about it and I have released so much shame, but that took so much work. What about you?
I went through again, I'll say that like my journey is a little bit different because I do come from money. I do come from an upper middle class upbringing. So I, didn't even know that there was such a thing as not having money, frankly. I didn't know that. We were in India growing up and like my parents had money, my mom had money, my mom, especially in a country where women don't have money, my mom did. Like she kept her salary, so I didn't really have any money worries. I think the first time that like money became a problem or like an issue was when my dad passed away. That was the first time that like money like stepped into my life and I was like, oh, this is a thing that you have to take care of. And it also I had this stark realization of like how much people manipulate and cheat and and like the people who were close to my mom who called themselves family, who called themselves well-wishers of my mom after my dad's death became more about stealing money from her, and my mom lost a lot of like actual cash to the people that she trusted. And so we went through this phase of like, and yet we were not without money because like you said, like we had a floor. I guess we had a buffer, right? So I had this life where I saw the importance of money and I saw how people demean themselves to get it. And these people that I looked up to, I lost all respect for them because if you're profiting off like trying to make money during like someone else's funeral, then you are the lowest of the scum there is.
Yeah, it's pretty scummy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That was like my like very eye-opening experience. But I have to say like credit to my mom, even when we were like she was a single mom, like it was not something that we talked about till like we didn't have to till we came to the States. And that is like America breeds money. Like you cannot have a conversation with somebody that is not transactional. I did not know that I was shocked the first time I was introduced to this kind of like transactional. You give me a ride. I had this friend who asked for a ride and then gave me 50 cents for gas. And I was like, are you asking me a favor as a friend? And if you're not, if you're like asking me to like take you somewhere, then why are you only giving me 50 cents?
I was like 50 cents.
She gave me 50 cents for gas.
When was this? Like 2000? Like
I was in school, so yeah, it was probably 2000. So
okay, that makes sense.
Probably was like, or maybe it was a little bit later. I don't know, but yeah, like I was like, who the fuck gives 50 cents? At least fucking give me $1.
That's almost like a slap in the face.
It was the way, and this is how like she picks the money, takes the. It's like here's 50 cents, and I was like, I don't want it. Like, what is this? Like, offer me a fucking like cup of coffee, woman. Like
so funny.
I mean, I'm telling you, I was like, this was like my first time of dealing with like, I'm helping you say thanks and find a better way to be thankful than to fucking like this is how 50 cents. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, it's okay. Like, take the 50 cents.
I don't need your 50 cents, babe.
Go be rich today. Today's your day.
Hey, maybe that's all she had.
Which, and I'm all for that, right?
Yeah.
And don't offer me the money. I didn't give you I didn't say, how much are you going to pay me?
Yeah.
You asked me for a ride. I'm offering a ride to a friend.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Buy me a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
If you're that so, that kind of transactional thing was incredibly, it upset my nervous system because I was not used to living in that environment. This is something that I don't know if this is rude or not, but I'll share it anyways. Money protects you. And I had that protection most of my life till it wasn't there. You feel it when it's gone because
that's interesting.
And I didn't know that I was sheltered because my parents had money. I didn't know that.
I mean, it makes sense because this is being somebody coming from like a poor person here, a former poor person.
That's what I was
like. No, I love that you said that. And the reason I'm saying this is because I feel like as a former poor person, it's pretty easy to tell when people are protected by their money.
Interesting.
It's very easy to be like, oh, that person has money. Because like you just see it. Like they're just, it's almost like an aura about them where they're like, I don't need to worry about money. So like they just have this.
I didn't know I was like a Vogue model.
Exactly. You walk down the street and you're like, because they just have this like, it's the
Wind
safety.
Just blows my hair.
Well, it's like this safety, right? It's like the safety of like, I don't have to worry about this thing. My nervous system is calmer. And that's something I think are going to be talking about in this episode too, is protecting your nervous system and how to even get ready to talk about money, because we all know that like it's so uncomfortable to talk about no matter who you are.
And I think part of the reason is because it's so fucking transactional. It's
right.
like there's so many other ways to like be a person on this planet. It doesn't all have to be tied to money.
Correct.
And I think one of the things we're hoping is like to introduce people to that kind of relational thing where it's not all about money as much as we want to make a lot of money.
Yeah,
right?
Of course. Sure.
And I think
I like to make some.
Well, as you know, I mean, I need the wind in my hair as I walk down.
Exactly. But yeah.
And I think she's going to be a great guest because she's a woman of color herself.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's going to change the lens with which she's going to talk about these issues.
I think so. So let's get into it.
Let's do this.
Yeah. Pamela Capalad, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you on today. We kind of wanted to start off with just kind of a little bit of your personal journey and how you kind of got into personal finance, introducing yourself to our audience, kind of just like letting people know who you are.
Yeah, totally. Oh my God. How far back do you want me to go? I was born in the Philippines now. Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
I can go back really far. Well, I think that me being, child of immigrants and immigrant myself does inform a lot of my work and a lot of what I do. I was born in the Philippines. I moved here when I was 2. So I feel like I'm in that weird, like first generation, but also immigrant in between type space. I've kind of tried to navigate that. And, wanting to be Americanized, but also wanting to understand my Filipino culture. And I think that is where a lot of my work really gets a lot of breath. I think it's how I'm able to connect with people. And I also think it's, this feeling of not belonging, I think is a lot of why I do my work and a lot of why finance connected to me and a lot of why wanting to integrate mental health into finance really connected with me. So I guess I will start all the way at the beginning. I guess I just did. And my parents were the quintessential immigrant parents, Asian immigrant parents. My dad told me that there were only 3 real jobs that existed, being a doctor, a lawyer, or a teacher, line. So I grew up with that. And when I told my parents that I wanted to major in literature, my dad was like, we could just buy a car instead of paying your tuition. Like, why are you going to read books for college? My mom was actually surprisingly cool with it. So props to her. But I started off in college. I went to this college. I went to the College of Creative Studies at UC Santa Barbara, and I got my first college job working in retail, and said I never want to do that again. So the next year, I answered a Craigslist ad for this thing called the Money Camp, and it was me as a college student teaching financial literacy camps to 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds. And it like blew my mind because I had to learn how to teach kids about money. I had to learn how to teach them about things that I never learned myself: budgeting, credit cards, starting a business, the stock market, real estate. I was learning all of this stuff on the fly and wondering why I didn't get it myself, wondering why my parents didn't even know to teach it to me, why I never got in school. And that's really, that was so eye-opening for me. And so I graduated with my literature degree and took that and decided that I wanted to go into financial planning and just like see what the finance world was like. And that's really how I got started in all of this.
I actually have a bachelor's in finance and I went the opposite way.
How funny. We like switched places.
Yeah, isn't that weird? I went to because I also have like a bit of a personal not fun history, and that led me to a path of like this, going to a school that I just really didn't belong to, because you were talking about belonging. And I was just like, if I'm going to be there, I might as well learn something that I can do something with. And I decided, because I was going to be an actor, I didn't want to be an actor who didn't understand money. So that's why I picked finance. And turns out the degree has nothing to do with how the real world finance actually works. So there's that. So, and then, yeah, so I went I had this finance thing, and then I wanted to become an actor, and then ended up making the same type of mistakes that most young adults make anyways, just to be like, oh, this finance degree is stupid and I have an honors thing in it, but it doesn't really apply in real world, because I did the whole, the credit card debt and the blah, 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 and all of that literacy thing. And I did it knowing how it works. So I get extra props for that. But I am curious. Creative studies, you said, right? So how is that? Were you wanting to be an artist? What is it that, it's so not a thing that makes you, right? I knew that I wanted to be an actor, and that finance was my backup. Were you also thinking about something like that?
I literally didn't know what I wanted to do. I had an amazing high school English teacher who told me that I was a good writer. And I know that I loved reading books. And I really had no plans except for I wanted to have fun in college. That was it. I was like, I'm sure I'll land on my feet at some point, but let me just escape from my parents' house, go have fun in college. The College of Creative Studies is also this totally wild hippie oasis in the university system.
Oh, wow.
I had no prerequisites. I had no grades. Yeah, no prerequisites, no grades. I could take any class, pass, fail. I could drop a class up until the last day. So I was taking classes. Okay. I could take graduate level classes in junior year. They just really wanted me to explore. And so I produced 8 plays. I am terrible at acting. I'm a terrible actor. That's why I produce plays, because then I could cast myself.
Hey, I get you. You got to produce your own work, till someone says yes.
What is your interest? Are you a Shakespeare person? What's your plays?
Gosh, Romeo and Juliet was the first paper I wrote in high school English class, where my teacher told me wow, you're a really good writer. And I was like, oh, thank you. That was such a moment for me to really have someone tell me oh, you stand out in this thing, and that was super powerful for me. So yes, I love Shakespeare. Romeo and Juliet was my first Shakespeare play. I guess we did have requirements. We were required to take a Shakespeare class. So I read a lot of Shakespeare. The first play I was ever in, was a Shakespeare play. Which one was it? Oh my God. I'm trying to remember the name.
It's okay. There's so many.
Oh my God. Midsummer Night's Dream.
Oh,
I
Midsummer.
literally, I was about to say, because that's the one that gets produced the most often in college. I was like,
I
oh,
was
God,
Theseus. Yeah, I was just like in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. You know, you said though earlier kind of like how you felt like you didn't belong. And I kind of wanted to go into that a little bit, especially like even you saying about your teacher, your professor giving you that opportunity, almost like giving you permission to like pursue this thing, right? I mean, was that a sentiment of like, oh, finally I belong somewhere. Finally I'm with my people, or I'm with like a community that I can be myself in?
That is absolutely how I felt in college. I love that you asked that, because that was not why I decided to go into literature or go to that college. I stumbled upon it randomly, but I really felt like for the first time I found my people. And my parents were extremely strict. So like my mom drove me to my junior prom. I wasn't allowed to go over people's houses. The first time I went to the movies by myself was in college, to give you an idea. And so I felt like that it was hard for me to maintain friendships or just like have really deep friendships in high school. And I wanted so badly to have them.
Yeah.
And so that part of like, they brought me here, they assimilated me in certain ways. And in other ways, they were like, no, we just have to protect you from the world still, even though we're here. And, you know, both of my parents' families are really big, but they're the only ones that came to America. Most of my family's still in the Philippines. So there was a lot of just like sense of isolation and not knowing who to trust in general. And so it was hard for me to see what it looked like to belong, because my parents didn't feel like they belonged.
There's also so much of the othering that happens, like, because I'm also a first generation and I lived in India and then I came here, and there is this, your world gets like bigger and smaller at the same time. And I mean, I have to, at what point do you think that your parents' teachings, especially financial teachings, got in the way of what perhaps were your understanding? You know, the direction that you were going, and where did that like start to clash between the traditional teachings and the new world order?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thing that comes to mind for me is just needing to, or this like hyper need to do something practical. Oh, to go to school for a purpose. Why else would you be going to college unless you're going to come out of it knowing exactly what you want to do?
Right. That's a very Asian mentality, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
And I mean, my mom was a nurse for 45 years. Like, she got to the US because she chose something really practical, right? And was in demand, you know, and the Filipino nurse stereotype is like super real for me.
Yeah, no, I know. The whole whatchamacallit, the teacher stereotype is true in my family. Most of the women in my family are teachers. And
Yeah,
they're all
yeah.
from
That was
India.
the other
Yeah.
pre-approved job. So I've been a teacher.
So would you say then, like you pursuing, you know, your writing, I mean, your financial kind of like the topsy-turvy way you went around your career, was that something different? Like, did anybody else in your family do stuff like that? Like, would you say that was like breaking the norm, you know? Or do you think other people in your family were, you know, approved?
I love that you slipped in the title of the podcast.
Oh, I do it all the time.
You know what's so funny is I thought that one nice thing about going into finance was like, it felt like something that would be easy to explain to people, like to explain to my family. It's like, oh yeah, I'm in finance. I like went into wealth management. That's like a real thing, right? And my dad, every time I saw him for years, was like, so what do you do? You just sharpen pencils all day?
Ouch. How did that feel being told that? Like, did that, you know, I feel like that's kind of like one of those weird compliments that parents like to give. Like, are those like weird ways to criticize you, but like not criticize you?
But also like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that I laugh about now, but at the time it was definitely me realizing that no matter what I did, unless it was something that was nursing or doctor or the things that my dad considered real jobs in his head or my mom considered real jobs in her head. It's just not something I could explain to them.
Yeah.
And I think that's something what's been really interesting about doing financial planning for artists and creatives, for first generation, for people of color is one of the things that we all end up connecting on is like, we have no idea how to tell our parents what we do. Like, what is our job? I don't know. A lot of these jobs didn't exist 5 years ago or 10 years ago, you know? I mean, even the way that I went about doing financial planning when I finally left wealth management, where I started a business called Brunch and Budget, where I literally met people for brunch and we talked about their finances. Like, how would I explain that to my mom and dad that I don't go into an office every day, that I became a business owner, right? That I became an entrepreneur, that yes, I have to buy my own health insurance. You know, yes, I have to like find clients and make money, not by salary and by, you know, figuring it out on my own. And so there were a lot of things that I just, as time went on, I just tried to simplify how I explained things to them so that they could understand that I was okay and that I was safe. That was the biggest thing. That's what ended up being my priority when I tried to explain to them what my work was or what I was doing.
All right. Let's switch gears. So, what is that moment in your life where you said, you know what, I think it's time for me to go my own way. I've got to find like, you know, like money situation happened in your life and you were like, maybe not so much creative studies, maybe it's time to go into the whole money thing. So what was that moment? Is there like, oh, you know, did something special happen that made you want to walk down this path, or was it like an instinctive thing?
I really think it was the summer camps that I was teaching. I did that for 3 years. I taught for 3 summers. And in that time, I also became the head trainer and I was teaching adults how to teach kids about money. And I realized it was also a skill that I had was being able to communicate things clearly and being able to take complex concepts and simplify them for kids and for adults. And I think, you know, finance happened to be the topic, and I am super passionate about finance, but I think that it really felt like I was helping people. And that's when I really wanted to dive deeper into it. So I graduated college in 2007. Let me date myself right now. I graduated college in 2007 and I didn't know what I wanted to do next because the company that I was working for was slowly starting to fall apart. And I was planning to stay in Santa Barbara for a couple more years and like help get the company further off the ground. And it was kind of going in the wrong direction. And I was talking to a really close friend of mine, Maggie Muldoon,
Yes, I know her.
who Ruth and I both know and love. And I remember talking to her on the phone and she was like, why don't you just come and do finance? And she had just moved to New York and I had always wanted to move to New York. That was my ultimate goal. Ever since I rode the subway when I was 9 years old, I was like, this is the life. I rode the subway when I was 9 and saw my cousin's studio apartment. And I was like, your bed is in the kitchen? This is awesome.
Get me one of those.
You thought it was so cool. So yeah, that was a really big turning point for me was just getting to teach people about finance and seeing how impactful that was.
You know, you said that you are very good at like simplifying complex concepts. So to put you on the spot, what is the most complex concept that you think exists about finances that people should know, but they don't know?
Oh,
Especially, I believe, like for actors and entrepreneurs, you know, people who are not like getting their,
Creatives.
creatives, yeah.
that money is emotional.
Interesting.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. It's so funny because in my head, I'm like, should I explain to you what hedge funds are? Or like,
Sure. Let's talk about the 2008 financial meltdown. Yeah, let's talk about TARP and whatnot. No, we're good.
so one of the things that they do not teach you in wealth management, and I don't know how much we were even teaching it to kids, is that all of the financial decisions we make are 90% of them are not practical or rational. They're based on
Correct.
emotion. They're based on how we're feeling
Yes.
at the time. They're based on our values. They're based on how much willpower we have. They're based on our identities. They're based on how we want to see ourselves. And I think the biggest personal finance scam is not telling people that, and telling people that we can make decisions as if we're robots. And I think that's how there's so much shame and blame and embarrassment when it comes to thinking and talking about our finances. Because if there was a collective acknowledgement that money is emotional, that money is also unnatural, right? That it is this unnatural liaison between our relationships with each other, right? Money's fake. We made that shit up, right? Let's
Correct.
be real. It's an agreed upon thing that we made up, and we created entire systems around it. But the reality is that most of us just want to be in relationship with people. And money can be a barrier to that, or something that helps complement that.
Okay, I have like a million questions. Okay, so money is emotional, and money can be a barrier or it can be the thing that gets us together, right? So then, as you were talking, I was remembering, I'm sure you remember those too, the buy now, pay later things, you have 24 hours before this sale expires. And so, all of those kinds of, especially like capitalist spending is very, very, like they dive into our emotions, right? This pattern thinking that we are like brought up on and taught to not question, right? Like it's this thing of, if you don't buy, you will lose. Don't save, go spend. The more you spend, the more you're saving the economy, that kind of stuff. So in that kind of space and now with the algorithms and all of that stuff, even that split second decision, 24 hours has gone down to like 1 minute. You can just click and bot, right? So what do you do in that kind of space when it's literally designed to, like they're taking advantage of the fact that money is emotional to you?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we've been really diving into in the last 3-ish years is interpersonal neurobiology, which is the neuroscience of how you are hurt and how you heal in relationships. And we decided to do that because your relationship with money, what we've learned is that it's often a reflection of your relationship with the system, your relationship with your family, your relationship with your friends. And the other thing that we've learned is that capitalism is designed to activate your nervous system. So what you just described is literally the system exploiting you and your decision fatigue, your willpower, your window of tolerance. All of these things are saying, you have to do this now, you have to do this now, you're going to miss out. There's scarcity, there's the false scarcity and all of those things. And when you're constantly barraged with that over and over and over, you will wear down. So one of the concepts that we teach is something called the window of tolerance. And the window of tolerance in like, I guess the simplest terms is your ability to handle things that are thrown your way. Your ability to, if you are in an emotionally regulated state, in an optimal emotional zone is what they say, you are within your window of tolerance. And that means you can say no. You can not buy the thing on sale. You can cook dinner that night, right? Instead of ordering in. All of those things, you can make those like ideal best self decisions, right?
Yeah.
But when you are pushed outside of your window of tolerance, that's when you feel stressed. That's when you feel fatigue. That's when you feel hypervigilant, right? When you are pushed outside of your window of tolerance, fight or flight. Exactly. You go into the 4 F's: fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, right? Yeah. And so when that happens, your system is basically trying to do whatever it can to protect you at the time. And if that means buying the thing right now, because your system is like, shit, I feel in danger, so let me buy this thing before the clock runs out, then you're going to do it.
Wow.
Yeah. And so the thing about the window of tolerance that is so powerful, one is that it is an automatic neurophysiological response that you cannot control. Often you don't even realize that you're out of your window of tolerance until you're out of it. And so our system literally takes over and says, no, we don't feel safe. You are in danger. So we're going to do whatever we can to protect you. I don't care how much money's in your bank account. I don't care if this is going to mess you up tomorrow. We're going to take care of you now. Right. And your window of tolerance can shrink or grow depending on what's going on in your life. It shrinks if you're tired, if you're hungry, if you have a lot of stressors, microaggressions, fake smiles, having to say yes when you really mean no, those all shrink your window of tolerance, right?
Right. The more you're compromising yourself, I imagine, the more you are going away from your ideal self, like you said, right? The less you are going to feel inclined to, fight back the system, as they say.
Exactly. And so when you have a small window of tolerance, it's the emotional equivalent of living paycheck to paycheck. One more thing can set you off. You might feel fine. And then you get pushed over the edge and you're like, fuck it, I'm just going to buy whatever I want on this credit card. It's okay. Buy now, pay later. Let me do it. Because nothing else matters right now. Right. And one of the number one ways that we've learned, especially in interpersonal neurobiology, to expand your window of tolerance is something called joining window of tolerances. And that is literally just being with somebody else. And when you are with someone else, you not only expand your own window of tolerance, but you expand theirs as well.
Yeah, I've heard that. This is such, oh my God. I literally read an article about that last week. Oh my God, this is so insane. And I didn't understand what they were talking about. Okay, I'm super excited right now. I'm like, oh my God, now I understand.
So when you say though, joining with someone else, joining your window of tolerance, how do you even do that? If you're someone who doesn't have a partner or someone who just is by themselves, are you saying friends can join each other's window of tolerance? How does that even work?
Absolutely. No, that's a great question, because one of the questions that we've been getting more often than not, because we talk about this thing called money buddies. Now you should find a money buddy, someone you can talk about money with in a way where neither of you feel shame, where you feel like you can have a back and forth and celebrate successes and, vent to each other and things like that. And we always get this question of I don't have any money buddies. How do I find a money buddy, right? How do you join your window of tolerances? And the number one thing is to think about who in your life you feel like that you can say anything to, and they will hold that space for you. It doesn't have to be a partner. It can be a friend. Why do you think Reddit's so popular?
Oh, interesting. Even just finding a stranger, almost somebody who
to just validate your feelings. Literally, it's someone saying, yes, what you experienced is real and true. Yeah, that was a microaggression. And yeah, you should be mad about that. Or yeah, you did get slighted and that sucks. And that actually, just naming that and someone affirming that expands your window of tolerance.
So then doesn't that go against the idea of there's this idea of external locus of validation? Aren't we giving the power away the moment we're saying, yeah, that person did that to me? Wouldn't then that also create more nervous system intolerance? Or does that sorry, go ahead. No, or does that just having that validated is enough for the nervous system to start feeling safe?
Yeah, that is it. It's the thing of, because so many people tell us that it's not real, right? So many people tell us the gaslighting. You're making that up. That's not real. And then you feel like you're I'm trying to find a good way to say this, but you feel like you're alone. You feel like you're the fool,
Which is so interesting with especially the way our society is right now. I mean, incel culture and just all of this stuff of people feeling, loneliness is a huge problem right now between so many people. And so it's interesting how money connects to community, because you never really think of money and community in the same kind of a field, everybody's families are always just oh, well, we don't talk about money. You don't even talk about money in your family, when you're with your friends. I have a friend who, I think the relationship has changed. And part of it is because her friend has become a little bit more wealthy. And there's this wealth thing that happens.
Yes.
And I think that happens as we get older, in our 30s, certain people get these jobs or they get to this point. And then it's how do you keep your old friends? Because your friend can't go do the same things that you used to do together or something like that. And so finding that community as we get older around money is just so hard. Do you have any suggestions with that? Finding community like that? Where you can talk?
I think the money buddy thing, something that we're working on fleshing out more, because it used to just kind of be a cute rhyme, oh, find a money buddy,
Yeah.
But as we've been as we've been connecting it to joining windows of tolerance and, people actually being in relationship with each other, we're finding that it is really important. And I think that one of the like most frustrating paradoxes ever is you feel embarrassed if you don't have very much money, and you feel embarrassed if you have too much money.
Correct.
You don't want to talk about if you have no savings, and you don't want to talk about if you have a lot of savings.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk about if you have credit card debt. You don't want to talk about if you don't have credit card
You
debt.
don't have it. Oh my God. I've gone through both of those phases. I'm not lying. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Oh my God.
Yep. And how do you break down that barrier? Right? How do you break down that taboo? And that is like a question that we're still trying to figure out how to answer. But the more that we talk about it, and the more that we're in conversation with it, and the more that and it's hard to be the vulnerable one, but I'm going to say, if you're listening to this and you are up for being the vulnerable one with your friends to open up the conversation around money, you may get shut down. You may not like how they react. They might not like what you bring up. And that's a risk that you do have to take, because money is such a taboo, and it's by design. And if we can break down those barriers by figuring out how to be in relation with each other when it comes to that, I think, and again, I'm not going to have the answer, because every community is different in terms of how you need to approach it. And you're the one who's going to know your friends and your family and things like that. But I do think that enough of us do need to say, I'm going to be the vulnerable one.
I mean, the safety, I think to me, this is all boiling down to feeling safe around money, right? Having that nervous system safety in your body so that you feel secure enough to not only have a conversation with yourself about money, but to also have it with your money buddy, right? So then, I don't know, because is there something we can do to start changing? Because I can guarantee just the thought of us talking about money there's gonna be someone out there who's gonna freak out about and they're not even gonna want to talk about listen to this, because money can really, really trigger people. So what can we do to even just start getting in that self-awareness stage where it's wait a minute, it's an ongoing relationship. It's not set in stone. Get a money buddy. How does that even begin to happen?
I think that's the hardest part. I think, one of the awesome opportunities that we have right now is we have a partnership with this organization in Brooklyn called Art Built. And they have a grant with the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs. And they got a grant to do monthly financial education workshops specifically for artists and creatives.
Oh.
And so for us, that has been our contribution to the community, to be able to offer these workshops. They're virtual. They're available to everyone across the country. We're doing another series of them starting in November, and it's going to go all the way through June. And that for us has been a way for people to dip their toe into starting to talk about money.
Nice.
A lot of people put comments in the chat. A lot of people are just lurking, and, they send us an email later about, some of the things they learned or some of the things that got cracked open for them. And so if you are feeling shy about it, if you don't want to talk to your friends because you're like, oh my God, I might have to see them again. Maybe it is about going into a community space with people you don't know. And that way you're putting yourself out there, but not putting all of yourself out there, right? Where you can lurk and you can start to just take the first steps. You don't have to share your credit score in the first conversation, But what's been really powerful about those workshops in particular for us is just everyone seeing each other and everyone saying, oh, me too. Or someone giving a tip and being, oh my God, I was just looking for a tip like that, And people sharing stories that they wouldn't normally say out loud because there's a space for it. And so I think trying to find those kinds of spaces, those are the kind of spaces that we feel like we've been lucky enough to create in small pockets here and there. But maybe it doesn't start with your friends. Maybe it starts with a space that's already primed to talk about money.
I love that, because that it kind of goes with our theme, and just our whole vibe in general, it's all about, cultivating that space and cultivating that community and finding places that you feel like you can find your people and that can like lift you up. Right? Because it's all about being lifted up and about everyone supporting each other. And we're really trying to get away from the like me. And it's more of like us, And yes, it is like taking care of yourself first, of course. And that's what you're doing when you're going to something like this. But this is almost like a collective care, like a collective community care. I know that's like something that you kind of talk about sometimes, is just like the community, like helping. And you even said it right now, like this is your contribution to the community. I mean, how beautiful is that? I feel like people don't think that way. People aren't like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to teach some workshops to contribute to the community. Like that's not a thing people think, So thank you for that and for sharing that. I kind of wanted to shift a little bit. One of the things you talk about are like wants are needs too. And that kind of like goes back to like this conversation of like, what is a want? What is a need? Am I allowed to want things? Like, how do I know when it's appropriate for me to want this thing? And like, if I have nothing in my bank account, should I buy this, these sneakers or, these headphones? Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, this goes back to your window of tolerance.
Oh, it all connects. It all connects.
It all connects to your nervous system, and I think the biggest, I keep talking about scams in personal finance, but this is one of them, is that wants and needs are at odds with each other. Why is it wants versus needs? Why should you only spend money on your needs? Why should you feel guilty about buying a coffee every day, right? That's bullshit, because the people writing those books are buying their lattes every day. Like, let's be honest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so who benefits from that narrative is the question that I always ask myself when it comes to something that feels restrictive, when it comes to something that can elicit shame or blame, is who really benefits from us thinking, oh, we should only spend on our needs, right? Because when we do spend money on our wants, which is inevitably going to happen, like my 5-year-old spends money on his wants, it is like an innate human thing to want things, right? And to desire things. And one of the things that we've learned is that wants fulfill your emotional needs. So your needs cover your physical needs. Yes, you need a place to live. Yes, you need your cell phone. Yes, you need the internet, right? Yes, you need to eat. Yes, you need food. But the thing that makes us human and that makes us like really understand our identities is, what kind of food do we want? What kind of house do we want to live in, right? What kind of cell phone do we want to have? All of those like kind of decisions that we make around our needs are really important because they show us what our values are. And when someone tells you that you can't have your wants and you can only spend on your needs, one of two things happen. One, you end up being like me, and you one of the things my mom taught me was like, you should only buy something if it's on sale. And I remember, right? I'll buy something if it's on sale.
Marshall's.
No, I remember looking around my apartment one day and being like, oh my God, I don't like anything in here. Everything I bought was on sale. So you end up either being that, or you end up being someone who doesn't know what you want and it feels like you just want everything, right?
That's what our 20s are like.
Yeah, exactly.
When we're away from our parents for the first time.
And a huge part of us feeling like we're not allowed to spend on our wants is that it's hard for us to even know what we want. Like you were saying, Ruth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most fun experiments and investigations that you can do when it comes to your money is to actually figure out what you want. Put that as a line item in your budget, because where you spend your money is a reflection of your values. You always put your money where your mouth is. And if your mouth is tired and hungry and, just like feeling very restricted, you're going to do whatever it takes to not feel restricted, And so I think that wants versus needs is so important to us as a way to flip the narrative, because when you allow yourself to want things, that gives you the ability to forgive yourself, that gives you the ability to not feel guilty, that gives you the ability to like live shame-free. And so many different things can unlock when you're like, oh, I'm just going to buy this because I want it. Right. And then you don't feel the need to fill that hole with a bunch of other things that you didn't actually want.
And I think that's where the whole like control system hierarchy comes in, right? If everyone starts to think for themselves and what's going to make them free, then who's going to buy all this, crap that we want to sell mindlessly and keep people, bogged down? So I think that right there is the heart of the matter, right? This idea that they want to keep they
We all know who they are.
Want to keep, that's the system, right? Let's call it system, whatever. The idea is to keep you locked down in your choices and to keep you a little less satisfied, a little bit more emotionally unfulfilled, so that you are, so that you're like always ready to make those impulsive choices, to make those wrong decisions, get into debt, and then spend the rest of your life trying to get out of it, right? So
yeah,
ahead,
or on the
sorry.
flip side, to feel like you're better than other people for not getting into that and having that narrative going on. So there's a lot of like competition and individualism that is rooted in like traditional personal finance concepts that does keep people at odds with each other.
Asking a question. I read this last month, something. Okay, who cares? They said that women, girls, are taught to save. Boys are taught to invest. And when I heard that, I literally I was like, my hair is going to set itself on fire because I was so mad at this idea that, and then I had this conversation with my mom and I was like, is that true? And my mom told me how when she was growing up, they didn't teach her world finances. They only taught her personal finances at home, how to balance the home budget. And I was like, what? So, I mean, how do you deal with that kind of discrimination that literally starts at the womb level?
Gosh, I have so many thoughts.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh.
My first thoughts come with investing in general, and who it was made for, especially the stock market.
Ugh, we'll be here forever.
Especially the stock market. Oh my gosh, hold on.
Don't
Let
get
me
me
just pull up
started.
a stat because I want to get this right. Because I don't think it's a boys versus girls situation. Yeah. Let me see. Where is it? Oh, the wealthiest 10% of Americans own 89% of all US stocks. That's the real stat.
I read that.
Boys or girls to invest, one. Two, investing is made for rich people. And oh my God, there's so much history I could go into. The thing that I really want to impress upon people is for our parents' generation, they didn't have to know how to invest because they had pensions. And pensions were something that your company invested on your behalf. Right. You don't have to know what the stock market was. You don't have to know what bonds were. You don't have to know about rate of return and follow companies to check their earnings and profits and things like that. And then when they invented the 401k,
those people,
they created the 401k as a tax shelter for high income earners. Originally, to defer income because your 401k delays you having to pay taxes, right? Because the tax is 70%, whatever.
Yeah.
And so they invented the 401k originally for high income earners. And what companies realized was they were like, wait a minute, if we could use the 401k as a retirement vehicle, then instead of us having to put money into these pensions, our employees could be responsible for their retirement. And so that was the big switch with companies. Instead of providing pensions that were defined benefit contributions, where you were like, oh, if you work here for a certain period of time, we're going to take care of you in retirement, right? Instead, they said, oh, no, 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 no. Instead, why don't you take some of the money from your paycheck that we were paying you and contribute to retirement yourself? And not only that, you have to decide how you want to invest it, even though you have never had to learn about investing or the stock market ever before in your life. That's how this all started.
Oh,
We
wow.
never had to learn about, and our parents' generation did not have to learn about investing.
Wow.
And we do.
Of course. And
It's kind of
sorry, go ahead.
I mean, it's the same thing, right? You go to the doctor's office, you partially have to be a doctor just to get looked at, right? You go to the insurance, you've got to be an insurance adjuster.
Yeah, and you talk about paperwork. I know that like how that is all kind of a scam. That like back in the day, right? Like we didn't have to fill out the paperwork; they were filling out the paperwork.
Yeah,
right?
the businesses would fill out the paperwork for you.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Paperwork was like a way to build relationships. So it was basically like this scene where like a banker was like chatting with you and like filling out the boxes for you. It was designed to streamline internal processes. But that all shifted in the 20th century in the US when the US passed these large social welfare programs. And they're like, instead of hiring more people to help you fill out paperwork, they're like, no, you can fill out the paperwork. And when you fill out the paperwork, if you fill out the paperwork, then you can have benefits. But if you fill it out wrong or you don't fill it out at all, then sorry, you're out of luck.
Yeah, that's what they're doing with Obamacare right now. They're purposely like wrapping it up in red tape to make sure that people stop filling out the paperwork and don't claim their benefits.
Yeah. A way to keep people poor. Yay. Another way. So these last kind of like 5-7 minutes that we have you, I kind of wanted to hop into kind of this like creative entrepreneur section and kind of just talk about like as a creative entrepreneur, which we are, or like creatives in general who maybe haven't hit like 6 figures or hit that kind of money yet. You know,
The
what
screw you money.
exactly. What would you recommend like when it comes to just getting yourself to kind of like that next level? You know, you talked about community. Do you think that has to do something with it? Like, how can you grow financially? How can you grow your wealth financially as someone who's not traditionally from that?
Yeah, I think that I feel like there's so many ways to answer this. I'm trying to think about what works for people. And of course, not everything works for everyone. But the first thing that comes to mind for me is, especially if you're not someone who does this, is to figure out how to look at your money regularly.
Yeah.
Scary.
That's scary.
That scared Lily.
I don't want to look at my money. I know it by heart, but like just the idea of like logging onto it is like.
So,
oh
like,
my God.
what do you mean by regularly too? Because I'm the opposite. I'm like looking at my bank account like every day, like
Yeah,
all
me
the time.
too. And then I'm like, click.
But yeah,
Close it
like,
out.
what do you mean by looking at it regularly?
It means something different for everyone.
Okay.
And I think that I say regularly and don't give a time frame because everyone has a different threshold for how often and how long they can think and talk about money. And I think acknowledging that and telling yourself, like, I don't have to sit and look at my money for 3 hours every day or 3 hours every week or whatever it is, right, is really important. So baby steps first is just like, check your bank account balance once a week. If you're not checking it at all, you know, just know what's in there. I think that one of the biggest things that keep us from our money is like hoping that it's there when we swipe the card.
Really?
Instead of
interesting.
just checking to see, like, do I have the money for this? It's just like, oh, I hope that it's there. I hope I don't get declined. This is also why credit cards are so satisfying. So as a financial planner who has gotten into credit card debt, you never have to check your bank account balance. You never have to know, like, oh, do I have the $20 to buy these groceries? You can just swipe your credit card and like pay it off at the end of the month, right?
Right.
It gives you another way to not pay attention to your finances. And I think that there is so much trauma and so much stress and so so much pain around thinking about money, especially if you feel like you don't have enough. You just don't want to look at it, right? And so if you can get yourself to just look at it regularly as a first step and to track something fun, right? Track something that you want to spend money on and say, hey, I want to be able to spend $100 on buying a coffee every day this month. Give yourself that and track that, right? Or I want to track how much money I make every month. Every time you get a check, just like write it down. Every time you get paid, just write it down, right? Because I think what I find the most is that, especially because artists have such inconsistent income, it's so hard to gauge how much money you've made or how much you didn't make. I have so many clients who at the end of the year file their tax returns and they're like, I made that much. Like, where did it all go? Because you are living on feast or famine, like in the
Me.
moment.
Me. I'm like, wait, what?
Like, wait, I have how much? And so because you're living in feast or famine in the moment, your nervous system is like, oh my God, I just have to like survive right now.
Yeah.
But if you can just find ways to make your nervous system feel safe around looking at the money and being like, oh, that's how much I have. Oh, that wasn't that bad. That is the comment that I get from so many clients when I look at their bank accounts with them or check their credit score with them is, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. But there's so much anticipation and fear that we put around checking our finances regularly that if we can just like normalize looking at things and being aware of how much is in there with no judgment around how much is or isn't there, because that is also why people don't want to look.
Something else that, sorry, I thought of that. The banks will now do that for you. You can set up the categories and you can literally just see the wheel, right? They'll say, this is how much you spent on fine dining, on, whatever. And so you don't even, like, if you're that terrified, like, you don't even have to look at the actual amount. You can literally just look at the wheel and be like, okay, I spend this much on groceries, this much on gas, this much, on entertainment, on coffee. So that may not be like the worst, like the most like shell shocking way to start.
I love that. Yeah. And I think finding those strategies for yourself is going to be the experiment and the exploration, is what will ease you into this, right?
Yeah.
I have a follow up. What eased you into this? What made you comfortable with your finances?
I don't know if I eased into it because I had to start teaching it.
Okay.
I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I just like took this summer job because I was like, camp, that sounds fun. Kids, sure, let me teach the kids. So I feel like I ended up diving in head first. I have a very strange experience with money. But yeah, so I feel like I just dove in and I was like, oh, I guess I have to do this now. Because for me, it was like walking the talk. It was important for me to walk the talk when I was teaching kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
One final question then. You come up with this idea of values. You said, right, money shows it's a frame. I'm sorry, I forget, like you said something about values and how it's connected to money. It's a reflection of your values. Ooh, I like that word, reflection. So how can we begin to find out what our values are and how we can connect that to money?
Oh, yes. I'm so glad you asked this question. This is going to be my next newsletter. Yes. Okay, so there are actually 4 types of wealth. The thing that we focus on the most is financial wealth, but there's also time wealth, there is social wealth, and there is embodied or physical wealth. And you
Ooh,
can
I like
find
that.
our values within that. I think that especially when it comes to money, and when it comes to wealth in particular, we think of money first, right? How much money do I have in my bank account?
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that people give up money all the time to spend more time with their kids or to have more time for themselves, right? They take lower paying
Yes.
jobs. They don't climb the corporate ladder, right? People give up money all the time, or I don't want to say give up money, but people find wealth in their
Prioritize.
communities, in their friends, in their family members, right? I just had a
Yes.
friend who was staying here for a couple weeks. And him being around, I didn't ask him for money to stay at my house, right? It's not always about transaction or exchange. And so social wealth is about your relationships and your community and what wealth do you have there. And then there's embodied wealth or physical wealth, and that's your health, right? Your ability to take care of your body and prioritizing that, right? So like one thing that I'm doing right now is I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease recently, rheumatoid arthritis, and I can't work as much. So I have actually, and it's been like an interesting time for me as someone whose identity was so tied to my work and so tied to like, oh, my value is in how much money I can make for my business, right?
Right.
Actually take a step back and say, wait, that can't be my priority right now. I can't prioritize my financial wealth. I actually have to prioritize my health, you know? And I think that there's such interesting like tension among all of those types of wealth in terms of how you make your decisions. And I think your values show up in terms of which types of wealth you really want to focus on. And that can change throughout your life and that can change throughout different phases and chapters. But financial wealth isn't the only type of wealth. And when you think about your values, it's really heartening to actually think about how many other types of wealth we all have in our lives that isn't just about money.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
I really do too.
Yeah, that really resonates because, you know, people talk about it all the time, you know, like rich people, yeah, they might be rich, but like they're miserable in their like personal lives, you know? And it's like, what would you rather have, right? Like, maybe it's like a little bit of both.
and then the other side of it is like the whole, like, you know, the stealing that happens, right? Like you're stealing from your relatives, you're stealing from the system. You're like actively working to make sure that others have less so you have more. So that is also like an erosion of your values because now you're once again compromising your morality to have more money, not realizing that relationships, community, health are just as equally important as having money.
Yeah, if not more important.
Yeah.
I'd rather have my health than money, to be honest. And family.
I agree. And like your clean conscience.
And clean conscience, exactly.
Like you want to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Not tweeting at like 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Pam. This was a really great conversation.
It really was. Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. How can people stay in touch with you? We'll link those courses you're talking about in our show notes, but give yourself a little plug.
Yeah, totally. So I have to give credit to Ruth who came up with this name. But
what name?
You can go to getshameless.com. And Ruth totally came up with that. So thank you.
You do not have to give me credit, but I work for Pam if I didn't say that before. Just a little disclosure.
Now she tells us.
Now I tell her. Yes, getshameless.com.
Getshameless.com and at GetShameless on Instagram and TikTok. And and then I have a newsletter on Substack. So getshameless.substack.com.
Great. So type in anything Get Shameless and you'll find her.
Anything Get Shameless. Yeah. No one else. I just trademarked Get Shameless. So it's mine. It's mine in dialects. Very exciting.
That's right. Yeah. Your husband who also works with you in the financial industry. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you again. And we'll talk soon. I'm sure we'll have you on the show again to talk more about money.
I would love to. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next time on Break the Norm podcast. Yeah, maybe you're not what they thought you wanted, but you can change their mind. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I'm with it, where I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm going to bring me. I know what I do. I know what I do is good. I've trained and I'm going to come in. And if this isn't what you want, then that's more your issue than my issue. Thank you for tuning in today's episode of Break the Norm.
We want to give a very special shout out to the team that's making this podcast possible. SCV Studios, our editor, Eileen Hanley.
Our producer, music and sound recording, Hugo Fowler.
And before we leave, we ask people to subscribe and leave us a review. We are everywhere you listen to your podcast. And that's it. We'll be back, right? We're done?
We'll be back.